Welcome to the Elite Thinking Club. I'm Chris Jules Julian, and I'm joined tonight by my co-hosts Lucas and Liz.
Oh,
All right,
you're right.
guys?
Hey.
Awesome stuff. Last episode, we spoke about a real serious matter, and that was suicides. And if you haven't watched it already, guys, please go check it out. And, you know, the feedback we got from some of the viewers was phenomenal. People were commenting and sharing some stories with us, and we just want to say thank you, because this is what the Elite Thinking Club's all about. And if you haven't done so already, guys, join us, hit that subscribe button, and then you'll get a notification of future episodes. But before I go into what we're going to talk about today, I am just going to lay down some house rules, just so we clear the air before we begin. You cannot change anything unless you're willing to understand it, and you cannot understand it unless you're willing to explore it. A good debate doesn't get ugly. We may talk of things that make people feel vulnerable. Beliefs held sacred may be challenged because of life experiences. We're not trying to make people wrong or to incite a riot, but simply explore. Welcome to the Elite Thinking Club. So yes, I was going to say, today's episode, what we're going to talk about is something that I think is just, we can take it anywhere. It could be anything. So yeah, pin your ears back. And if you feel like you've got something to contribute to the group, then please comment or message in and like the video too, so it shares to more people. But today's episode, we're going to talk about the afterlife. What happens after we die?
So I want to step in here, and I've got a story about a mutual friend that's quite interesting about sort of the afterlife. It doesn't go into your heaven and hell sort of stage. It's sort of the in between, just before that sort of judgmental sort of period, is what some people believe.
Right.
So we'll go right back to the start of the story.
Yeah.
So this person was out clubbing, having a good time, just drinking alcohol, nothing else. And someone drugged her drink with fentanyl. And I don't know if you know what fentanyl is, but it's what people use once heroin doesn't give them the kick anymore. And
What?
obviously this person, she was out like she was out cold. And the people, my friend who was with her, was looking after her and stuff, and they took her to the ER.
Yeah.
And they obviously, luckily the ER knew exactly what it was. She's all good now. But
Right.
the bit that is interesting is when my friend was talking to her and asking her about what happened, she said that she was in this sort of box, solitary box, and she was strapped up in the middle, she couldn't move, and there was this voice saying to her, it's okay to flatline.
No way.
And we'll just let that sink in for a moment. Whether she had a conscious choice or unconscious choice, we don't know. But there was a voice in her head that said, it's okay to flatline.
She had a choice. Is that what you're saying? She experienced a choice.
Effectively, yeah.
Wow.
But she's all good now. No like long-term damage or permanent damage at all. But that was sort of
voice. What was that voice? Who was
How
that?
did that make her
exactly.
feel?
Do you know what I mean? To have a choice, like it's okay to flatline if you want. It's not. You know what I mean? I still got episode whatever, season 5 Game of Thrones to watch or something. Do you know what I mean? I got flatline yet? Are you crazy? Take me back. What is this?
I'm off to the Maldives next week. Calm down.
Unless you've got anything better than heroin, okay? I don't want to know. I'm going back to Earth. Thanks.
No.
Joking, but serious. Wow.
So going back to the afterlife, that's not so much where you end up. It's sort of the in between, the transition process between going from one stage to another.
Do they call that limbo?
Yeah, I think people call it. Yeah, you're sort of in limbo, or you're in the judgmental sort of period.
Yeah, you're not here nor there. You're kind of in limbo where you get asked the choice, you get offered the choice.
I'm not
I
saying
think sometimes in films as well, it's portrayed like if they've got unfinished business, like if the soul has unfinished business, it's in between. It's stuck in that limbo stage.
Still got
kind of like similar to our ghosts. Yeah.
Wow. Right. So if you're watching right now and this has just sparked your interest, then you've got to comment. You've got to let us know exactly what you think about that one. Lucas, I love that one. That was awesome. Awesome. Never heard that before, but that is awesome.
But I'm not going out there and saying everyone's got an extra life. It's not like another chance, but I wouldn't recommend trying it. But
Oh no, definitely
yeah.
not.
So for anyone listening, I'm not saying go and do it, you have an extra life, but
No.
that's the story I've heard.
That is incredible.
But the real question is, what do you guys think happens after that judgmental process? So if you don't have a choice, what do you think? Reincarnation? Just nothing?
I like to believe that there's something. I like to believe that we go on to something kind of like a reincarnation. And I always feel like that's the next level. Like when we're here now in this life, and then when we leave this life, we go on to like the next life. So we go on to the next level or the next dimension. So yeah, I like to think that that this is all for something. It's all like for the next thing. That's what I like to think. I know we did a previous episode was on suicide, but linking that to the afterlife, I saw a medium once, and she actually spoke to me about like how souls, because you was talking about limbo, Lucas, how some souls, depending on how we die or the reason for our death, like where a soul may be trapped in limbo or in between, going on to the next stage of the afterlife.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a right answer to it because no one knows.
No, we can't exactly come back and say, hey, just to let you know and confirm.
But you've obviously had people that have had near-death experiences and they say, oh, my life flashed before my eyes, blah, blah, blah. But there's, linking back to drugs, one of my friends at uni, he does studies like psychology and like psychedelics, and we have similar conversations to this. I'll get him on the show one time. But there's a drug called DMT. And here we go, yeah.
Just shout, DMT.
But DMT, what it does is it makes you trip. It's like your hallucination. And people in that hallucination, things go at 1,000 times the speed, sort of like special relativity that Einstein come up with. And
that scares me.
Rapid,
that really
so
scares
fast
me.
In this trip. And you can see anything. You see aliens, whatever floats your boat. And
whoa.
So do you know the body actually produces DMT on its own? This isn't something you can consume more. However, it's just like testosterone. People that want to bodybuild and bulk up, maximize on their strength, like physically, take testosterone to, give that boost that they want to produce like a hormone. DMT is similar. So I'm not exactly sure why the body produces it or why it feels the need to, but yeah, it's definitely there, 100%. And it's also back to that first episode that we ever spoke about when we had like quite a lot of guests on the show and like for the launch, we mentioned ayahuasca, and it's very closely linked. Just so you know, Lucas, that is so like, they're like this, like ayahuasca and DMT, very, very close. But we don't produce ayahuasca naturally like DMT. However, same principle. Yeah.
So going into the sort of the science behind when you naturally produce it, you produce it when you're born, when you die, and when you dream. So it's 3 times when you produce it.
Wow.
And it's produced in a gland in your brain somewhere, and it gets secreted into the bloodstreams and traveled around and stuff. I don't know exactly where.
I dream a lot.
Yeah, it's not dangerous at all when it's naturally produced. When you take more than you are naturally producing, that's when it gets a bit dangerous. But there's a story about this girl, and she took DMT, and she hallucinated and made this trip, and she lived her life in what in reality was 10 minutes, but for her felt like 70 years. Come out of the trip. When she come out of the trip, she was like, linking back to the suicide, she said, I've already lived my life. And then she committed suicide 2 days later. But the interesting,
oh my goodness,
this will get your minds thinking, is when you wake up from a trip, what happens if right at the end of the trip you trip into another trip? So you're in, if you get your head around it, you're tripping whilst in a trip already. And then eventually you end up on this downward spiral and you're stuck in this psychedelic tripping hallucination simulation effectively.
Yeah, and when you get out of the trip, this you'll think is the trip still.
Yeah.
So when you say that we produce DMT in 3 occasions, when we dream, when we're born, and when we die, do you think people in coma are constantly just feeding themselves DMT. So they're in this state of trip. That's why they don't ever, like, they're in a coma for time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact science behind a coma, but
Some people who are in a coma, though, they have such strange experiences. They'll go, like you mentioned about your partner, Lucas, and like I've heard stories of people in comas where they say that they felt like they had out of body experiences, where they were walking around, they were literally looking at people sitting by their bedside, holding their hand, talking to them. And also, I know a little boy who got hit by a car in the village along next to where I live, and he got off the school bus and he got hit by a car, and he was in a coma. And when he woke up, he recited all of the conversations that everybody round the bed had. And he said, I could hear you. I was here. You know, I was actually talking back to you, but you couldn't hear me. But he wasn't moving. But inside, like, he was like, hello. It's strange.
Wow.
It's
Now,
like you're trapped inside
I was
and
going to
you
say,
can't.
I was going to say two things on that there, Liz. Yeah. One, back to sleeping. If you produce DMT when you're sleeping and you're having these hallucinations, is that why people sleepwalk?
Oh my goodness.
They're like
Yeah.
they're in a state of like DMT trip, like
and they have no idea.
Yeah. But then what you just said about being trapped in the body, that must be torture. That's like in a prison cell for however long you're in that coma for. So if you can still hear everybody, and you're
and can you imagine, you
screaming
want to
back,
say,
yeah,
you want to say, I'm okay, I'm here,
yeah.
but they can't even feel you twitch or say anything. It's crazy. I get really excited at the thought of the afterlife. I know that sounds a bit strange, but I like to hold on to the thought that there is another level. There is something. This is all meaningful. What we're doing, this whole life, is for the next, in preparation for the next. How do we not know that we think that, you know, life is long and that this is what it's all about, we only get one life and that's it? How do we not know that this is in preparation for something even greater, for something better, or you know, for just whatever the next level is? We could look back and think, oh my gosh, that was, you know, this is it, that was, you know, we don't. So right, I just want to say
right now, guys, if you're watching this episode or listening to this episode, now is the time to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, or comment on what you think. I know this is getting your brains ticking, it's getting ours ticking, and we're buzzing off of this right now. Loving it, absolutely loving it. Right,
you
Liz,
know, there's lots of spiritualists out there that are wanting
100%.
They're screaming at the screen saying, yes, there is. Yeah.
I'm going off of what you just said, Liz, right? Literally, that if there is such thing as afterlife, must look at it as past life as well. If there is something after, that must mean that there was something before. So this, where we are right now, for example, use myself as a reference. I am in my own afterlife. I've had past lives. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So if there is such thing as afterlife, and then there must be such thing as past life. Like,
well, people often speak about past life, don't they? They will say, oh, you must have been that in a past life, or, oh, yeah, I've heard it throughout my life, people saying, oh, you must have done this in a past life. Or sometimes people say, I must have been really bad in my past life to deserve this, you know, or so you hear that. So it's like we have that sort of subconscious that we have been here before, or we were something else before, then we've come to this, or been reincarnated as who we are now. Then we're going to go on to something else. So yeah, if there's a past life, then there's this life. Yes. Then of course the next bit is the afterlife.
Right. So on that, I'm gonna add some more. If there is past life and this life and continues, is it because we were put here to achieve something, and because we didn't, we've been given the opportunity to do it again, and we will continue to have this opportunity over and over until we get the task done, and then we can pass to another realm, so to speak, or another dimension. Right,
that's guys, an interesting concept. Yeah,
I'll leave that one there. Quick one. If you are interested in all we spoke about, right, I'm going to leave a link in the description to a book that's like renowned by quite a lot of people about the afterlife, and it's called SUM, SUM, And oh God, I forget the author's name, but it's going to be in the description, guys. Check it out. It's like 15 stories of potential afterlives. And I promise you, if you're loving this episode right now, then you will love that book. And it's not a hard read. It's not like it's going to take you months. It'll take you maybe 2 days. And it's just all these possibilities to get that mind ticking. Love it. Absolutely love it.
I
I've
wanted
got to read that book. I'm going to read that book.
Yeah, same here. I
I'm
think.
actually, sorry. Yes, Lucas.
No, go on, George. You go.
I was going to say, if you want me to share a story, one of them, I can. There's one of my favorite ones that I just love. I think it's absolutely
definitely. You need to you can't drop a seed like that and not let it grow. You need to tell us.
All right, wicked. So I also explain the story on Instagram. So guys, check us all out on Instagram. You'll find us. Go on Elite Thinking Club, and then all of our links are on there. And I tell the story there as well. Right, you die and you go to limbo, where you meet the creator. The creator says to you, I want you to think about this for a while, but you're going to go back to Earth, and you can go back to Earth as anything you want. So you take your time, and because you've got time, there's no rush, and you really process what it was about life that you really enjoyed and what you didn't. And what you really enjoyed was leisure. You really enjoyed leisure. And what you want is a life of leisure, freedom, abundance, and that's pretty much what's ticking your boxes. And you don't want stress and pressure and anxiety. So you come to the conclusion that your best life is the life of a horse. So you go to the creator and say, I want to go back as a horse. The creator says, okay. And he snaps his fingers, and you're whooshed back down to earth. So you're descending back down to earth quite fast. And during this process, your whole body starts to change. Literally, your skin and your fur and your mane and your tail and your hoofs and your head starts getting longer. And during this process, you're actually absorbing everything that's happening. You're like, oh my God, this is happening. I'm actually becoming a horse. But whilst you're becoming a horse, you start to feel that your brain starts working differently. Like your cognitive thinking changes, because you're not moving the body of a human anymore. You're moving the body of a horse. So you have to think differently. And not only that, your taste buds start to change and your vision starts to change, because you're taking on this new body. And as you're still getting closer and closer to earth, it starts to dawn on you. You start thinking, wow, man, I'm not gonna think like a human anymore. I'm only gonna think of a horse. I can't wait, because I'm just gonna gallop the fields, and I'm gonna, like, have sex with all the other horses, and I'm gonna have kids, and it's just gonna be the best life. Eat apples from trees, But then you are just about to start your new life as a horse, and it dawns on you, and you think to yourself, wow, what must I have been before I was a human to choose the simple life of a human?
Oh my.
And that's it. That's one of the stories, basically. And I love it.
I'm definitely going to get the book. Definitely going to get that. It just changes the way you look at it and think about it, which I love.
There is one
That's really
thing.
good.
So that's sort of reincarnation. And I wanted to touch on, I just want to put this out that this is my opinion, and I'm not saying this is right, and I don't mean to offend anyone, but I am an atheist. I believe in science disproves religion. And I do have reasoning behind that, which I'll explain later on. But the reason people go to religion is to sort of a security blanket of stuff that they don't know and no one else really knows. And that's sort of their way of comforting themselves and saying, it's okay, I've got my God or gods, depending on what religion you believe in. But the reason why I believe in science over a religion is, if you were to destroy every religious fact, every book, so that it was erased off the planet of Earth and no one knew about it, in 1,000 years' time, if that, obviously it would come back, but it would be completely different to what it is today. If you destroy every scientific fact on the planet and in everyone's mind, at the snap of your fingers like Thanos, eventually in 1,000 years' time, those facts will come back and they will be exactly the same as what they are today, because they are proven by physical results and observations.
Yeah.
Very well put. And that right there is exactly why I love the Elite Thinking Club, because it's about exploring. And Lucas, I'm very glad that you did explain that the way you did, because it is about exploring, and you're not trying to upset people, and you've used your opinions, and that's that's really vital actually to it. But do you not? Okay, so Lucas, I'm going to ask you, being as a atheist, in your position of vulnerability or desperation or even life threatening, would you not look to the sky and say, please God, help me?
See, I go to spirits and guardian angels, and if you haven't watched the episode on ghosts where we discuss this, then make sure you go back and watch that one. I think it's part 3, but make sure you watch all of them because they're all good in their own rights. But yeah, that's who I believe. So other people that have gone into the 5th dimension, make sure you watch the episode, you understand what we're on about. But yeah,
I think, religion, it's the whole thing where, like you said, Jules, there's a situation where people are like, please God. People, not necessarily atheists, but they may not be religious, and they may not necessarily be, go to church or even believe in God, but they might not label themselves atheists. I think there are times where they will refer to, oh God, please God, or somebody help, even if they don't quite believe in it.
That's interesting. Like, I don't believe in a physical thing that I can call God. Like, I don't worship something. I don't have a
I agree.
tangible thing that I can say that's what I worship.
I don't have a label or a religion. I don't.
And I don't need to go to a specific building to enhance my belief. However, there are intangible powers that we have, like faith, like belief, that we can build through the process of worship. Now, whether or not it's a physical thing or something that's in your mind as like whatever you want to call it, but that's what builds people's intangible power, like that inner. So let's say like you want to achieve a goal or let's say you want to break a habit. You're asking for some power, willpower from what? Is it from within? Are you God? Are you, do you get power from yourself, but you have to speak outward for yourself to hear? Or
outsourcing it.
right. It's great how people have different views and visions. I mean, I think it's in total recorded 30,000 gods since the dawn of civilization, and they all change and they all, reshape. You might have like a head of a bird on a man. You might have a person with wings like an angel, or you might have a white guy with a big white beard that looks like Santa Claus in the sky. Whatever you envision God as, either way, I think we're all deep down needing something else beyond ourselves to ask for strength.
I think it's the belief and belief of something that gives us faith.
Yeah, because let's say, for example, to step into the unknown, to go into a place that you've never been before, it's alien to you, it's not new. I mean, science will only get you so far. At some point, you're gonna have to take a leap of faith, so to speak, to trust that you'll land on your feet, or to discover new areas, or new places to explore. No one, like, for example, anyone that's achieved something magnificent, like I think it's Edison that created the light bulb, him and his team anyway. And he must have got that idea from something that came from a source of infinite intelligence or something. But he, in his mind, could see what he wanted to create, but no one else could. So to create the non-existent and bring it into what is physical, what is actually here, that takes a phenomenal amount of faith and belief. And it's either in self or in something greater than self. But we're going way off on a tangent here. So let's go back to what we was talking about, and that is the afterlife.